Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody inside and outside the ballpark to the Noved Notes podcast on episode 76. My name is NovedPlayer. I'm your host, and of course, today we have an amazing guest, an amazing, talented musician. We have BirdSatan. BirdSatan, welcome to the podcast. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing just fine, Noved.
Good.
The weather is hot. Weather is hot today. It was a hot day.
True. No,
Brutally
valid. Yeah. Well, for the general listening audience at home, what exactly do you do inside of VRChat?
Inside VRChat, I perform metal music. I have this project called Limited Sight Distance. It's a little bit of a play on words, but hey. It's a music project that I've been doing since I was like 19, and never stopped putting music into like that name. Recently I've been expanding into like mixing, mastering, and collaborating with other artists that are on here. Like Cookie. Yeah, if you know, Cookie's a trance folk hyper pop musician. Let's see, Altered Evil. Did you have Altered Evil on here once before?
Yeah, not yet, but no. It is in the works.
All right. Stay tuned for that. When Snakes Sing. Who's a furry musician, furry rock centric type of guy. Do have more things with him, but that's been 2025 has been collaborating. And yeah, previous years have just been like inside, doing my own music, taking my own musical journeys and such. But yeah. That's where I'm at right now.
Hell yeah. No, well, I guess, obviously, when it comes to being a musician, I guess one of the first questions I wanted to ask, what kind of got you inspired into making music and, publishing music?
Well, I've always been in a musical family. My dad was a drummer. Real steady, dedicated drummer. Played for a bunch of different bands in his local area when he was younger. Passed those drums off to my older brother. And my sisters tried out guitar. They tried it for a little bit. They didn't take too much to it yet. My intermediate family, they're all guitarists. Me being the black sheep of the family. Decided, hey, I want to play bass guitar. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be bassists. But that's sort of like oddball approach to music. Like me being like 12 years old, right? And thinking, all right, I'm gonna do something that everyone else in my family isn't doing. Right, because kind of carving a niche with myself. I'm pretty sure if there was somebody else who was a bassist, I'd probably be like, hey, I want a trombone. I want to do trombone.
Just pick another outlandish one compared to everyone else. That's fair.
Yeah. Bring me a koto.
just bring a pan drum. just pick like the most outlandish instrument there is. Just the more instruments that are chosen, it just goes wilder and wilder.
Ute.
Ute, yeah. Oh my god.
Jeez. But something like that, like, damn, that was pretty cool. And so I kept on playing bass, and then later that turned into acoustic guitar, and then electric guitar, and then after that it was mostly just like composing, because starting on bass and then trying to pair bass and guitar together is like you have to kind of have to like, expand and be able to bridge the gaps between those two instruments, which is not really hard, not all that hard to bridge between bass and guitar, but piano and drums, that's a little bit more complicated. So it takes a bit of expanding beyond what is comfortable, like a comfortable chosen instrument. Like say you would start on piano, right? And you're really comfortable with that, but you're terrible at say violin, but you need violin in your piece. And so it's like, okay, I have to think less like a pianist and more so like a composer. I'm conducting what these instruments would be doing. And by that token, I'd say I'm kind of a multi-instrumentalist when it comes to stuff like that. You kind of have to be if you're writing music by yourself. If you've chiefly been writing music by yourself.
No,
You have to be really have to be your own band and know what limit is made on either side. Like, are you doing too much for? Are you doing too much on the drums and leaving out the rhythm guitar? Is a rhythm guitar too active and overtaking the lead guitar? Is the lead guitar really doing anything that necessitates the need for it to be a lead guitar? Stuff like that. A bit of like, all right, cool, yeah, it's fancy, but does it serve the whole vision of the song?
Yeah, absolutely. I would
I
say
got off track.
no, you're good. I would say
Okay.
I would say it's definitely a huge thing when it comes to composing and writing music. Because obviously you're right. You have to think in the mind of not only one instrument or vocal. You have to think all of it. You have to think every single thing, and that's not easy for a lot of people, especially when it comes to learning how to properly mix and how to make everything sound well blended together. So I guess kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask, because you've been doing it for so long, I would say, are you properly like musically trained? Like, did you go to like school for music or anything, or did you just kind of play it by ear and just go from there?
I've always been a bedroom musician. It's always been F around, find out. Be able to, because there's a level of yes, you can go to music school. You can get traditionally trained. They will show you what a compressor does, what an EQ does. Um, they'll show you what limiters do, the different types of effects, processing, what tape is, the basic physics fundamentals of the thing. That's great. That is good. It will fast track you. However, there's so many available tools that are just default. Here you go, right? They'll teach you what those things do by playing with them, by turning all those knobs over to 10, turning all those knobs back down to 0. What's the difference? Right? What happens when you have this knob at 8 and this one at 4? What does that sound like? It's tweaking. It's moving your fingers. It's twiddling knobs. It's figuring it out. And I think that is far better of. I would hazard to say that's a far better way of learning, especially for me. I'm kind of a visual learner. I kind of have to be like shown and get the muscle memory of the thing in order to properly like retain it.
Sure.
But for the most part is
No, I mean,
people learn better stuff, better things, the things that you wouldn't normally think of while operating by yourself, and it does like going to school would lend guidance to the thing, lend guidance to learning the thing, but nothing more than like YouTube would. And YouTube would be a little bit more specific while you're catching yourself in the flow state of curiosity and capitalizing on that small window of creativity. That's money right there. Because if someone's curious, they're curious right then and there. Especially like for me, as like ADHD. If I have the will or the stamina to go through and figure those things out, I'd have a question. I'm like, how does a compressor work? And if I go and look it up on YouTube, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get my answer right then and there and be able to apply it right then and there. But if I don't have the energy or the focus or anything else, then it's just going to be like, okay, that's just a YouTube video, and then I get distracted and I go down some kind of rabbit hole. I'm like, now I'm like, what the fuck is a Neve? What's an SSL?
Yeah.
Why do compressors align like that? Do the thing? Yeah.
No, absolutely. I would say, because, as somebody who is, trained when it comes to music, like I do have a degree as well. One of my biggest things when it comes to,
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Because, realistically, every musician does it their own way, and they don't have to have a degree to make music. They don't have to, go to fancy music school or college or, whatever. Music is in all of us. It's something I truly believe in. Everybody has their own rhythm. And it's definitely, it's a learning process for a lot of people. But, at the end of the day, with time and practice, and dedication to it, it truly shows how much, we as a human society can combine together and unify under music. This is a huge topic for me because like I love talking music. It's one of my biggest, like, that's why I'm always glad to talk to musicians on the podcast that perform in VR, because it's such a nice thing. A really good example, kind of talk about, not needing a degree. So like I direct a barbershop chorus in my area, and my co-director, he never
went. The hat.
Yeah. I say.
Okay,
like,
I see.
Yeah, he never went. He never went to like music school. He sang in choirs and stuff, but like he's never went to, college for music theory or anything like that. But he's such a talented, singer, and he sang in a quartet for over a couple decades, and completely wows audiences. But it's one of those things like, he did that on his own. Just by learning. Even sometimes he has, troubles reading sheet music sometimes, not always. He's done very well progressing in that front. But he's super talented. Like you give him a piece of music and, it's like, here, learn this, and he'll learn it super quick.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, from vocalist to instrumentalist, it's a whole different field. So it is kind of cool to see that you play multiple instruments in that front, because there's a lot to learn when it comes to each instrument too. The fine tunings, the fine, what's the difference between a bass and an acoustic and electric? Like, obviously there's tons of different things. And, coming from a musical family, like you said, obviously there was huge inspirations when it comes to that. So what kind of made you want to, start limited sight distance? Like, what kind of brought you into that, field and be like, yeah, like this is exactly what I want to do?
I had a backlog. Okay. I was 18, 19. I was about 19 years old. I had a backlog of music of like the little sound bits, because, and this ropes back to basic plugins can teach you, like, leagues above anything else. I got a fully legal and licensed copy of FL Studio 11 when I was like 16.
I had to giggle there. Sorry.
And I was playing around with that, and I was making little sound bits for a game that my buddy at the time was making. Game didn't go anywhere, but I still made like 30 or 40 of these like 4 10 seconds sound loops to play in the background. And so that kind of got me into be like, well, what does this thing do in FL Studio? Like how can I recreate this thing and all that? Yeah. What got me started into doing limited sight distance was a conversation that I had with my aunt who was teaching me how to drive at the time. Because in the state that I was in, is like you had to get so many hours behind the wheel, so many day hours, so many night hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I took to driving pretty quickly, and so she was just in the passenger seat and just telling me all about how her how when she was young she was a punk rock. She was a punk rock chick from the DC punk scene.
Mm-hmm.
In the late 80s, early 90s, trying, like when it was first forming out, or like 80s, yeah, 80s until the 90s. She was in that. We would listen to a bunch of punk music, a bunch of like different type of rock, metal, and such. I'd already been listening to like Rammstein, Nine Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins, kinda. Got out of that. A bunch of different bands, but she's like Fugazi, Black Flag, a bunch, all those bands, all those types of bands. And she said that if she were to ever start a punk rock band, it would be called Limited Sight Distance, just like the road sign, and all of our merch will have LSD on it. I'm like, that's pretty funny. That's pretty cool. And so I kind of took that in like a poetic type of way. Like this was happenstance, the whole headset thing, having limited sight distance because we can only see past, as far as the screen is. That was okay.
It's a good play on words.
It is. Not having the best, like we can't foresee the future so far, and so like any random amounts of variables, growing up with anxiety, overthinking, and such. One of those things that would overthinking about stuff about like what's going to happen in the future made me just like shut down from any kind of possible anything set in stone, and so everything looked rocky and shaky, and so we had a limited sight distance on the future, just like a road sign warning us, like our limited sight distance around this turn. We don't know where we're going to end up, and so that paranoia kind of fed that, and started to become the mantra of the music that I would go on to create under that name.
No, fair. I mean, that
it's
kind of crazy.
Served, and it's everybody who's listens to my discography, they start from the start, from Candle in the Dark, like from the start, and go all the way up to Terminal, which was released, actually this time last year. Happy anniversary, everybody.
Yeah.
We did it. From Candle in the Dark to Terminal, that whole span of time, like people can notice a progression of mood, of outlook, of optimism, of pointing the blame to different things of like, why am I feeling this bad? Oh man, like just all that stuff. Pointing the blame at everything else, and then by the end of Terminal, it's just like, oh well, it's I'm starting to point the blame towards myself and correcting. Yeah. So really, it's just a journal. I think I've mentioned this before. Was it? It was Virality last year. I was like, hey, I'm glad to be here, and I'm really fortunate to have my journal bounce off these walls.
No, absolutely. I was gonna say, because obviously with music for a lot of people, it is a journal. It's about getting their emotions out and letting their emotions be heard in a way that people can understand. Once again, going kind of into the same topic about how music unifies the world. It definitely it's like art. It's a creative endeavor that people can relate to. You know, in some way, shape, or form. It's definitely a heartfelt thing for a lot of people. I mean, that's why a lot of people, including myself, like when you get so deep into a song and you realize the meaning behind the composition or the lyricism. It can really tear your heartstrings apart because you can kind of feel what exactly this person is going through, and it's definitely a deeper look into the soul of the person, whoever made the music. But I guess kind of to go a little bit more in depth with your stuff. So obviously, you have performed, on many different stages in VR chat. So I guess kind of to start off this topic a little bit, what kind of got you into VR chat and like the music scene of VR chat?
Into the scene, into the music scene.
Yeah, well, let's start with like what got you into VR chat in the first place.
Okay. Okay, so it was like 2019, right? I was working a pizza job. I was delivering pizzas. I was tired of being poor. I wanted to do something that would generate a passive income. And so I picked up learning Blender so that I could make 3D pornography and start a Patreon and sell it and all that stuff.
Fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, because like it's a thing. I can go under a completely like unassuming name and such, and no one's gonna fucking know. It's just like, here you go, all right, and then and people would be like, that's pretty good shit. Here's money. I'm like, all right, cool. And so I just churn that out. Me trying to find a better like mocap solution got me into, I guess, the algorithm of looking at VRChat stuff, like back in 2019, where it was still like it was still just like hands and full body tracking was kinda okay, kinda good, first generation stuff. But after that, I was like, that's a pretty good thing that I would want to get into that, right? And so that was kind of a goal to kind of get into here, and not somewhere along the way it kind of dropped off from doing 3D pornography in Blender to how do I make like music videos. I would say I'd eventually want to do like limited sight distance music videos like in Blender, but then that kind of turned into here, which turned into a want for wants to blend my music and the amount of time that I spend in here. And so then I started doing music and talking to people who put on shows and such, which led me to Corbell, who was the first person that I ran into who was actually doing stuff like that. He was putting on this thing called Furchella. I'm like, what the fuck is that? What is that? And I had to bite because it's so like it's I'm my own original character, Blonick, kind of thing.
Wow, that's a reference.
And so yeah. And so I'm like, I had to approach him. I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? He's like, well, it's Furchella. It's Coachella, but for furries. I'm like, but at the time I wasn't in this. I wasn't pushing too hard with the whole bird thing, and also this was before this specific model came out. You know, I love the hell out of this model. Was it Neo 3D? Used to be used to be cheesy 3D, but now they're Neo 3D. Featherland. It's called the Featherland. People ask me, what is this bird? Featherland. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Asked him. I was like, "How do I get on your stage?" Because I was at the time I was tired of playing at like open mic night or midnight munchies or just doing that circuit for a bit. It's brutal. Musicians who are like first starting out, that's cool. It's good to like cut your teeth on, but it's not a good place to stay, because what that does is it tells you that there's a specific type of desire, specific type of sound that gets the most applause, gets the most attention. And if you're not that, then you'll get golf claps and Mona Lisa smiles. That's just it. I approached those types of stages with heavy fucking metal. Heavy metal, progressive metal, odd time signatures, screaming at the top of my lungs, scaring the fuck out of my neighbors, and all I get is that like, whoa. It's okay. That's cool, right? You got to be a specific mindset in order to. But it's music, and it's like you were there for music, and this is stuff that gets your blood pumping. But like a lot of those places, they're all like stoners, and they want to chill out, man. They want to vibe, man. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But I recognized that was not my scene, and so I needed a bigger stage or a bit more like focused venue. But for some reason I went to like Corbell for that, because there wasn't a whole lot of like rocks. Well, When Snake Sings, he was doing that. He was leaning into the 2000s radio rock type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like primed it. I'm like, okay, so people do like rock. Cool. I'm not just like, a dinosaur being left in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's moving on to like sad boy piano, and that's just not like that. Used to be me, but I am not that anymore, and I can't. That was the first two albums. That was the first two Limited LSD albums. They were both like sad, dour, atmospheric, and all that, but yeah, progressively became much more heavy, more angered, much more focused with its target.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so to directly answer the question, like Corbell was putting on shows on here. I asked him. He put me on stage at Furry Hideout's Countdown 2024 last year. 2024 was a big year for that because I was doing show after show after show. This year slowed down because I'm doing more like production work. Next year, hopefully, I'll have far more shows and actually another album to promote. Hopefully.
Hello, everyone. Real quick, just want to pause the episode right here. I want to thank this month's monthly supporter, Drowns. If you want to support the podcast, feel free to check out the Noved Squad Hangout, where I have all the creator economy stuff and all that stuff. But, of course, if you're making sure to come back to check out some of the other episodes, might as well hit that subscribe button and make sure to join the group today because we have some amazing events that we're being showcased at that you don't want to miss. So make sure to join the group today. And, of course, let's get back into the episode. Woo! Yeah, of course. And, obviously, it's a lot, I do agree with you to a sense. It's a whole different atmosphere when it comes to like open mics versus like live show performances. Because I know you've also done, you've done stuff with Corbell, you've done stuff with Virillium, you've done stuff with, many different, groups when it comes to that, performing on these big, charity events, these big stages and stuff. So obviously from your point of perspective, since you've kind of dabbled in both the open mic side and the live performance side, what was kind of one of the bigger, benefits from your end when it came to, starting to transition into those, live events, those bigger performances?
How much focus there was on me. Okay, yes, I have your answer. I'm trying to form the sentence. When you're at open mic night and you don't have a whole lot of people focusing on you or nitpicking or whatever. People are just like talking amongst themselves. You have the grace space of you can bomb and no one bat an eye. That's where I said like with the open mic nights, you cut your teeth, right? You know what you can do and what you can't do. If you're trying to play guitar and sing at the same time, but you previously couldn't, so you can go there, iron that out, trial by fire. But the other thing of that is that if you do good, no one will bat an eye, right? Because then it's just like, okay, well, that's cool. With where you have a full hour dedicated to you, if there's a showstopper, if you like, I miss notes constantly. I go flat with my notes, right? I don't have I might not have the stamina to maintain some of these long 30-second screams that I do. And it peters out or whatever. From little blunders to massive showstoppers, all of it just feels like it's under a magnifying glass. When that's your hour, and everybody who's in the crowd came to see you.
There's more of a right. I was about to say there's more of a pressure to it, being the main focus rather than open mic stuff, which is totally fair. Because obviously, like you said, it's a completely different atmosphere. Especially when you are essentially plastered on this big stage, and you have, with VRChat, limits now, potentially up to 80 people watching you, and not to mention on stream, maybe tens to hundreds of people. It's a different atmosphere completely. So I guess kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask in that regard, because obviously there is that pressure of performing in front of so many people, in comparison to open mic nights and stuff. Which I want to disclaim something, like, obviously open mic nights are a great thing. It's a great thing for very new musicians who are kind of learning their their space when it comes to, you know, VR chat and music. You know, we're not dogging on it too much. Like, I want to make that clear. It's a different atmosphere, you know, and that's completely fine. You know, so kind of to dive into, you know, the performance side of things, because obviously, you know, going from these different stages, different worlds, different organizations and stuff, you know, obviously you've done a lot of performances, you know, over the, you know, couple of years. So one of the questions I want to ask, you know, is there a particular performance in your personal opinion that is probably your favorite of all time when it comes to like your performances in VR chat?
Yes. Which requires a bit of preamble. So before before, you know, June last year, I performed at Virality, which was a big deal. It was a big fucking deal.
Frowdy Umbra, correct?
Going from, yes, Virality Umbra. It was going from like nothing to going from like 5 people in the audience to, I think it capped out at like 2,000 in now looking back, a relatively short amount of time. Had some technical errors in the way. The whole thing felt, the whole experience of like the back end felt, it felt very tight, very squeezed. There was a lot of pressure to perform because of the type of entity that they are. They have a lot of eyes on them. They have a lot of pressure to succeed from just, you know, the Virality staff alone, let alone the performers that they have on stage. And so, the atmosphere was a bit tough, was a bit stiff, and so going from, I liked it. Didn't necessarily like my performance because there was a glitch out with my microphone settings. My singing microphone and the microphone on the headset both active, and so my screams were just blowing out my index microphone. You could hear it the entire time, and I cringe every single time I look back at it. That's beside the point. So after that was this event called Echosphere, and that was so much to like. It was way more relaxed. It was Beryllium. It was far more relaxed and all that. On Virality, I had my own instance. I was on stage. You know, I had a back piece. Had coordinated coordinated the people who featured on Terminal. They were there, moving parts in and out. With Echosphere, I wasn't even on the stage. They had a big stage. They built a big stage. I performed in the pit, in the crowd, and ever since then that's been my staple. That's been like, I won't be on the stage because the stage just feels so disconnected, right? Now it's like in front of the stage or further like in the center of the pit, because at Echosphere, I had a song called "March of the Pigs." It was a cover. It was a Nine Inch Nails cover of "March of the Pigs," and my buddy Sandwich Man, he's always in like this little like excellent quality pig. I had everybody clone his avatar, and everyone was like, you know, mosh pit with with pigs. It's pretty cool. There are several. There's videos up of it, and that was pretty cool. And that kind of cascaded into what my mosh pits look like now, which are now like little crows, right? That are also excellent quality. And so that's really cool. That was Ecosphere was so pivotal that now I have mosh pits. The pigs turned into crows, and I bring the murder wherever I go.
No, that's awesome. I mean, to say that you can create mosh pits inside of VRChat just by performing is really fucking cool. Like, I'm not even gonna. I remember
the best part about.
Go ahead.
The best part about those specific avatars is that they're excellent, right? They're excellent quality. So therefore, they pass my culling filter while I'm on stage, because I'm running like programs in the background. I'm running OBS. I'm streaming, which taxes and I think I'm recording sometimes, which taxes my CPU. And so the best thing that I can do is just turn everybody into diamonds. Just cull everybody's avatar except for like the excellent ones. And so those tiny little crows, right? They're excellent quality, and so I can see them. I can see them spinning around me, jumping, going ah ah ah. It's great.
I don't remember. I want to say it was Virilium in Area 55 Snowbound was when I remember seeing a bunch of those crows go around, and I remember that it was really cool. And of course, it, like, any footage that you have, like, definitely send it my way, because I'll throw clips and stuff on the screen of like your performances and stuff, because I do remember that one. I think Arcadia as well, when you were down in the pit, because normally they had not only the main stage, but they had like the DJ stage, but you were just right there, like no crazy stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool, getting into the crowd and stuff. Like, it was really cool, so the fact that you can do that and be comfortable and just go full out it's very commendable, to say the least. Because not a lot of artists will do that. They'll prefer being on the stage or like somewhat away from the audience, for whatever the case may be, of course. But it's kind of more in your face, I guess, to say the least, when it comes to that. So it's definitely a different style, and that's really cool. I do appreciate. I could definitely commend that. Because obviously, kind of to go.
There's not a lot of rock or metal acts, so True. I feel like I'm satisfying a specific niche in that. Me and a few of my buddies, we all know each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I think on the top of my head, I mean, you already mentioned When Snakes Sing. I know Raylick and Spiral are kind of diving down that rabbit hole as well. We had them on the podcast previously. Nova Slicers is getting into like punk rock, with some of their covers and stuff. But it is, it's kind of a niche, it's not, your typical EDM DJ when it comes to VRChat, or, your
that dominated
music.
the scene for years.
Yes. No, I as a DJ myself, like, unfortunately, like that's why I do what I do. I don't do EDM. I do, I like to keep the party going. I like to, do mashups that nobody's ever expects. Like, I'm the DJ that, in my personal opinion, I'm the DJ that if I can get them to turn their head towards me and be like, what the fuck? Why does this work? I've done my job. Like, I've done my job. Like, one of my tracks that I always one of the tracks that I always do, it's a Paramore track mixed with Katy Perry, and it's such a weird one, but it always turns heads. Or oh gosh, I always forget the actual name of the song. Wake Me Up Before You Go Go mixed with Oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? I'm gonna get railed in the comments because this is my own mix. It's Wham
Uh,
and oh gosh. Oh well,
is it,
imagine as I'm pacing the pews in the church corridor. That's
all right, Sin's Not
thank
Tragedies.
you. Yeah, Panic. Yeah, Panic. I was like,
Yeah, Panic at
I
the
was like,
Disco.
for some it's been a long work day, but
Really?
yeah,
Those those
yeah,
two those
those
two
two.
songs work?
Yeah, they do. They do.
See,
It's see, that's the point. You
throwing
know,
me off here. I'm like, no.
you know,
Uh,
you put the
one
beat
of
of
the,
"Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" and put the lyrics of "I Write Sins Not Tragedies," and it works.
yeah.
It's such a weird one, but that's what I do. You know, I like to give people stuff that they've never experienced before and make them like,
hmm
okay, this is weird, but it works and I like it. Like that's kind of my ultimate goal when it comes to DJing.
Me and
Um,
my buddies used to listen to a lot of Neil CiCiRega.
nice.
The like
Yes, bro.
mouth saga.
Yes, bro. I
Mouth
love
sounds,
me.
mouth moods. It's a mashup of like Smash Mouth All Star. It's like All Star pretty much goes with everything because Neil CiCiRega made that happen. And that's it. But it's like 6 hours, right? There's a big video of it's like 6 hours, and we use it as like a torture session. When we're sitting in Discord calls, we'll just put on that, and burn through the whole thing. We're all just like burnt out by the end of it. But it's fun. Like I have like really fond memories of listening to that. So mashups are like hold a close place in my heart.
Yeah, man. Like
It's weird
it's
when you hear a solid combination.
for sure. Like one
Yeah.
of the recent events I did, which was Four Estadio Cosmico, which is essentially like a Spanish and like Latino like community of VR chat. They had me on their official lineup, and I did like of course I had to pick some of the meme music, right? You know, it's a Spanish community. I had to do um Suavemente and a few like other ones like the one with like the dancing cat and everything.
Right.
But doing mashups into those was so much fun because like it was they were laughing because I personally requested permission. I was like, am I okay to play these without getting in trouble? And they're like, oh no, we will absolutely love you, like do it 1000%. I'm like, okay, cool. So but because I don't want to offend people, like if it's like, because obviously it's a meme when it comes
Mm,
to like certain Spanish songs and stuff, but they've really enjoyed it, and it's always fun to play around with that and teeter that line a little bit. But obviously,
definitely.
kind of to go back into topic a little bit, so when it comes to all your music and stuff, recently you did work with Alter Evil, and you did release the new album, Worms. So I believe that was released like 3 weeks ago.
It
When
was.
when this episode was recorded, it'll be about 4 weeks when this episode comes out. Um, so I guess kind of to go into that a little bit, because obviously we talked about your performance side, but kind of to go more into the production side and working with all these people. So I guess out of curiosity, what kind of led to you working with Altered Evil, and producing this album?
Ooh, okay. He Vinny and I go back as far as FIA's virtual reality showcase in 2024, as far back as that. Um, I played a song there, and it got a few people in the audience's attention. Specifically, the other performers that were there, the Cynthia sisters. Training Fangs came up to me and said, "Hey, you're a metal guy. I also have a metal guy who would love to talk to you, who's been wanting to talk to you. Because there's not a whole lot of metal guys performing and such. And so I want you guys to get together and see what happens, right? Um, and so I meet him. You know, he's cool. He's very clear with what he wants. What he wants to do. He wants to create. He wants to be a part of a community. He has these visions because he comes from the Newgrounds Web 2.0 era of media. Name all the biggest players of Newgrounds, right? So he comes from that era of Newgrounds and the Oni, NG, Spaz Kid, Psychic Pebbles, all the good ones. He has a lot of different projects under his belt, but his primary is music, and so we relate on that. We share our music. He has a few albums. I have a few albums. His is interesting. He tries out different things, different themes across the type of albums. The 4 albums that he has, all of them are really good, and it's still very like outsider art type of intrigue, welcome to my world type of thing. And he's wanting to make shows and like short series and such, and so everything that he does is in service of that, which is commendable and respectable, understandable. It's great. What he does and how he conducts himself is intriguing and inspiring from a creator's standpoint. It is very interesting what he does. We linked up. We talked about doing a few tracks, playing around with a few musical ideas here and there. It was only until like the end of 2024. So late last year, he approaches me with a song called Static K, which later then we changed into Special K after like the cereal, plus also K for corn, because it was a corn inspired song. I did kind of a fieldy slap bass type of sound for it. A bit of a Les Claypool solo at the end. Okay, cool. Which that then turned into the Worms. More that was my entry into the involvement of this 4-person project that he had set up with Vinny, Roll the Red, Vinny's friend Herschel, and me. And so it's just us 4 guys, collaborating, trying to figure out the basic arrangements of these songs. Well, Vinny was primary songwriter, but we were adding stuff that was like the flavor to the songs themselves, and elevating where they were like in draft form up to final form, which is out now. It's available now. It's available. You can get it. It's yours. It's out there. You just have to find it. Where? I don't know. That Altered Evil Bandcamp, YouTube. It's under Worms. It's new metal. It's all the fun stuff that we love and remember from the new metal era of music. From like 95 to 2000. years, like music fucking exploded. And so many different things sprouted off from that. Like, I would say that was like our renaissance.
Yeah, no,
Strange time.
I would be inclined to agree. It was definitely around that area, that it just kind of popped off when it came to like, new metal and pop punk, and like a lot happened during that era around the world.
Yeah.
It was a time. But obviously, funny enough, this did not seem like an hour, to be honest. Like this is like a genuine nice, I always love episodes like these that it doesn't feel like an hour, because it means that you can get engaged in the conversation. Like, I mean, I told you I'm a huge music head,
Right.
so it's very nice. So kind of to ask a couple more questions before we end things off. Because obviously you've been doing it for a little bit now. When it comes to performing live in VRChat and producing music, so for maybe anybody who's curious into getting into like performing live in VR, or maybe producing music, what's one piece of advice that you would want to give to somebody who's maybe wanting to start that path?
I would listen to as much music as possible. Listen to as much different music as possible. If you think it's weird, sit with it. Identify why you feel it's weird. Put yourself in the shoes of the person writing that music. No matter if they're like your cousin's brother half removed EP that he threw on Bandcamp 10 years ago, and 5 people have like heard 90% of it, or heard like 10% of it, or if it's Katy Perry or Taylor Swift, right? Still try and put yourself in the shoes of the songwriter and think, what could you do differently? How do you think that they approached that specific that specific line? What makes this specific melody at this time in this song, surrounded by all of these other different melodies, stand out? Why does this little earworm right here in this song scratch the itch so much? Right, so I used to, when I was younger, I used to listen to songs on repeat, which is psychotic. But in doing so, having a song repeat in the background while I'm like, I don't know, playing Minecraft, because era of Minecraft. I'm either like doing Minecraft or like drawing or whatever. Having it in the background is something that you can engage and disengage at any point in time during the song. But the more times you repeat, the more times that you're more inclined to like get bored of certain parts, but anticipate other parts of that song. And so that's good. That would be a good question for yourself, is like, why am I gravitated to that part of the song? And then analyze it from there. Like, what makes that part of the song good? Why does that scratch the itch? Because the more times that you ask yourself that, the more you're like, what are the further into the weeds you go. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're required to do that in order to write good music, but to understand how that music, how previous examples were made, other than like looking at interviews or looking at like track by track breakdowns, getting stems from, you're a DJ, you know this, hearing the stems behind the individual instrument tracks that go into a song. Yeah. the bass on one, the drums on the other, the vocals, keyboard, all separate tracks, and you can hear them in isolation. Sometimes by doing that alone opens up a world of like, oh, I couldn't hear that little diddly, that little medley right there because it was drowned out by the vocals. And so it's like, okay, well, why would they leave that in if the product of it is the vocals overtaking that little part? Then you start to see the musician through the music.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see these musicians for just people who are at that moment during the point of recording are scratching an itch themselves.
No, absolutely.
They're chasing a vision, and no matter how loud or how quiet specific parts are, they're in there. They exist. They are serving a purpose. Some people, when they're writing music, and they're like, I didn't think too much of it. I just put it in there. Right? And some people make really good music like that. I've never really been kind of like that. I have to like have a bit of a purpose of like, that thing is there for texture and to elevate what the bass is doing over here, like compounding type of I'm starting to lose track of the thought, but yeah.
It's all good.
Good to analyze music to be to the point to where you're able to see the musician through the music instead of just the music by itself.
No, absolutely, 100%. It takes a good mindset to do that. To go through the song, through the stems, to analyze it. Because I 100% agree with you with like certain things being covered, and I'm not gonna delve too tangent because we're already a little bit over time, but with barbershop, you have 4 individual parts, and having one go a little bit louder than the other, while one part may have a sustained note or whatever the case may be, or a resolution for the chord, it's definitely a thing that you have to listen to it multiple times. And to go back what you said about listening to the same song over and over and over again, that's such a common thing. I don't care what anyone else says. That's such a common thing that like I know so many people, including myself, who do that on the normal basis. Especially if it's one of those like newer songs that people just enjoy, like Epic the Musical, for example. Huge example when it comes to that. I love that shit. It's fucking phenomenal. Certain songs in there I'll listen to on repeat because it's such a vibe. And hearing,
I really like this
and stuff, it's wild. Oh, you're good.
You glitched. I glitched. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
That's all
I like those songs that, because I used to do that, made me want to write music that has like return value, repeatability value.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the best like songs I've listened to, some of the best albums I've listened to, where you get to the end of the album and it's seamless, smooth transition into the right back to the start. You barely even fucking noticed it, and that's the best, right? Or even with a song itself, like repeating a song, you're rewarded for more times listening to it because you have the front facing elements. You have the louder elements of the song presented loudly and broadly in front of you. Here you go. Here's the guitar. Here's the vocals. Here's the cymbals. Here's all that. But the more times you listen to it, the more you're like, okay, what's below that? in volume. Okay, then now you're hearing this little tom fill that you didn't notice before. Okay, cool. What about below that? You're hearing a soft pad in the background. Okay, what about below that? You're hearing a chair creak in the other room. Like the more you go down, the more layers you discover. I love music that rewards like that.
Oh yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that type of stuff. So Epic the Musical is a very good example of this. So funny enough, it wasn't until recently certain songs, specifically the one with the prophet, telling Odysseus like all the upcoming things, you actually hear backing vocals say exactly what's going to happen throughout the entire rest of the series, and you have to listen to it. You have to like tune into it to make sure you can hear it. But the prophet goes very vaguely, but in the back vocals, like you can barely hear it. But if you tune into it, it says like, yeah, no, you're gonna hurt Poseidon, you're gonna do this and this and this and this, and it's like, what? Like first listen, couldn't tell, and or one of the other ones, it plays motifs of other songs in the actual musical, but you don't hear it on first listen. It's nuts. If I had the time of day to do just a music related podcast, dude, it would be cooked. Like we'd be cooking right now.
Musical theater and motifs and leitmotifs is something that I've recently been getting into, and that's been helping my like songwriting so much. Like Sondheim. Sondheim and Andrew Lloyd Webber, which the basic bitch of music theater, right? Everyone knows Andrew Lloyd Webber. Yeah, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, damn. Jesus Christ Superstar, right? Okay, Sondheim. He's Sweeney Todd, Demon and Barber on Fleet Street. Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Yeah,
there you go.
Those guys, right? They're prolific. They're big names. Everyone elevates them. Right? Sondheim has a book where has like several interviews where he's outlines how he writes music, how he writes these songs. You hear the soundtrack for Sweeney Todd. You can hear this little line in there, which is the Dies Irae. Yeah,
I'm familiar.
It's supposed to be like the song equivalents of like sounding like death bells. It's like a death knell type of thing. It's like someone when you hear dun, 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 someone's gonna fucking die. Someone will die, and it's more than likely somebody who's currently on the stage. It's a little clue for the music nerds, right? Something like that. And so he's like, well, I'm going to take that line. I'm going to invert it. I'll play it backwards. So for this guy, I'll play a key higher, and so now it's a new thing. And so now from like one little diddly, one little diddle or what one little
motif,
one little line.
Yeah.
One little line. You have so many different ideas to choose from, and it kind of fractals out from there. And I love that. Pick a key, make everything that you do in that key identifiable. You can take that line, make that line tied to a specific emotion, and apply that throughout the album or the project or whatever, and you have a centralized, identifiable theme, emotional theme throughout the whole project. That was Terminal. There are I put so many little like identifiers throughout the thing. like this guitar riff is played here, but it's also played here, but much louder. And so this was like a precursor to this. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no,
I'm a bit of a music nerd as well.
Oh man, yeah. Music ramblings and music nerdism aside, dude, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is a blast, and to get to know you a little bit more and kind of learn a little bit about how you got started and everything. This was really nice.
Definitely, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
I've a few more things, right? Worms album came out. That's available. On top of that, there was also another.
I was going to give you a spot. I was going to give you a spot to shout everything out, of course.
So I right, so go ahead with the spot.
Before we end things off, I do want to give you a spot to tell people where they can find you, all of these stuff that you got coming out, all that stuff. But yeah, now go ahead and tell the people where they can find you, all the stuff where they can find your stuff at.
Oh, wow, thank you. Oh, you're too kind. You can find me on limited sight distance at limited sight distance on streaming services. LSD Music on Bandcamp. It's limited sight distance Linktree, right? My SEO isn't necessarily all that hard. It's there. Links will be in the description. Yeah.
That they will.
Yeah.
He took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
That and the Worms album came out. That's through Altered Evil. Go check him out. I did bass, vocals, and a lot of production. I did final mix and mastering on that. So I hope it sounds good. I did that specifically for you, so that it's tolerable at high volume. You can crank that. After that, I also had a release with Oz Parasol of the Strange Pair Gallery. He had a punk rock album, high fantasy punk rock album. That's set in his fantasy world, Omnigia, right? It's called Five Armed Bard, and the album is Infinite Continent. It is shit kicker, high fantasy punk rock. I did the bass and production on that as well. So, and that is also available. Go check those guys out. I certainly enjoyed that because that was like fulfilling the punk rock spirit that I've always wanted to do. Really did.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I've heard a good chunk. I haven't listened to all of Worms yet, but I've listened to a good chunk of the songs from Worms, and it was great. So very well done.
A good brick of dirt of Worms.
Yeah, right. Just one plot, plot of Worms. But yeah, all the links are going to be down in the description, so make sure to go check all of them out. Go follow BirdSatan on the socials and all that stuff. All the links will be down in the description. But yeah, ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside the ballpark, this has been it for episode 76. Yes. Of the Noved podcast. I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. Comment down below, what is your favorite pop punk band? What's your favorite pop punk band? Lagged a little bit. Comment down below your favorite pop punk band. Comment down below. We'll definitely see what the world's up to when it comes to pop punk scene. But yeah, of course, if you're already coming to check out some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway. And with that, I want to thank you all one last time for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care and peace. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Noved.